that the Jubilee concept is not an African concept, it's not a European concept, it's not a South American, Asian concept, it's not an Arabic concept, it's a divine concept. It's God's understanding of how he wants people from time to time, at least once in our lifetime, to be given a major respite. And the Jubilee concept was not just for individuals, for families, for groups, it was for nations. The concept was that every 50 years of nationhood, on the 50th year, and certainly multiples of it, then whatever had happened that was less than the best, less than to be celebrated in terms of failure, betrayal, problems, was to be released. So Jubilee meant and still means release, it means freedom, it means liberty. And God, who designed it, certainly did not intend to break laws, or suddenly he had forgotten about retributive justice. But we have to defer to his thinking and his mindset, because after all, God is almighty. And if after 50 years of nationhood, God says, let everybody who has any kind of problem or any kind of liability be set free, then he has something in mind. I always think of Jubilee in two ways. I think of Jubilee as a resurrection. We've just come out of celebrating a great Easter time. Whenever we think of Easter, we think of that day when Jesus Christ, by the power of God, was raised from the dead and lives alive in our hearts. And the reality of it, as was shown historically, was just phenomenal. And the reality of it is seen today in the lives of those who open their hearts and approach the truth of God, the salvation plan, and get into a rebirth, and a total spiritual transformation occurs. And as time goes on, we metamorphose, if you like, into a greater image in godliness and righteousness. And so Jubilee is like a second chance to do a first thing. It's like you're forgiven. You're given another chance to start again. It's a release. And we looked at so many areas in which we can handle this from. And tonight I want to continue and hope that I will be more relevant to us all. Certainly, I said 2 weeks ago that when we celebrate from two angles. We celebrate from a place of gratitude when we are thankful to God that we made it. By and large, I think all things being equal, if nothing happens to us, most people tend to live to their 90s, 80s, 90s. But if you live to 100, and I think that's really great. And so if a Jubilee is every 50 years, then it means that by and large, every person has one chance of a Jubilee in their lives. So I would be hitting my Jubilee very soon. That's 50 years of my life. And that means that maybe the next Jubilee, who knows, I probably may not be here at 100. But God's thinking is that just one time, it's like he cleans the slate and gives us a brand new sheet, a new page to write again. And he does not impute upon us evil things. He doesn't carry forward bad things. He just says, I give you a second chance. It's like you died and you have been resurrected. So when we see any kind of Jubilee, particularly this golden Jubilee, and we are grateful, we are thankful to God because he has been good and merciful to us. We also celebrate not just with gratitude, but with some amount of pensiveness and some amount of introspection, because none of us, nobody on this earth can raise their hand and say, I am where I am and I am absolutely content, satisfied. I have everything. I have not made a mistake. All my deadlines have been met. Every dream I have has been fulfilled. Every vision, everything that I planned to do, I said I would do. No, if you do that, you do not live in the real world, because in the real world, circumscribed by space and time, there are things that are not within the power of your control. And so you plan something, but somebody else changes it. You plan something, then the snow falls. You plan something, then there's no power. You plan something, the plane doesn't fly. And each of these things bears directly in a knock-on effect upon your ability to fulfill what you said you were going to do. especially if you need other people and other elements to come into play for you to do what you want to do. I have prepared to speak, but without a microphone, without a camera, without a mixing board, without a tape, without some camera person, without a producer, without TV, without so many things, it's just useless. I'll be going around with things in my mouth, in my heart. So you always need people, and we need other things. And so when we celebrate, we also look at the fact that we are not really where we ought to be. We are not really where we could have been. And that, if we look at it from the negative point, it can weigh us down. And that's not the import of this discussion. But if we look at it and see that, I had planned to do 20 things, and by this year, I've only done 11. Well, thank God I'm a little bit over 50%. I've done 11. I've done more than what is left. But then I now devote my energies to doing the other 9 and maybe others that should be taken on board from this year, with the knowledge that if I had stretched myself, pulled myself, be more determined, chances are I could have reached maybe all 20. So whenever we celebrate because we are pensive and also because we are grateful to God for what we do. Another thing that I talked about last week is that whenever you come to any form of a celebration, a birthday, an anniversary, a national day, it's a time for stock taking, And some questions came to my mind last week that I shared, and basically the main question is, what got me into this? How did I get here? As a pastor, I counsel with people every day of my life, and invariably people ask, how did I get here? How did we get there? Sometimes I ask myself, how did I get here? And I'm sure you ask yourself, what happened that we got here? I remember talking to a young person some time ago, and the person just, broke down in tears and said, Pastor, I don't know how I got to this point. It's a phrase, but sometimes the truth is that we know how we got there. And so when we say, how did I get there, it moves from anything to death crisis, a prison sentence. Sometimes when you live in a country where everybody's so happy and close by, it's very easy for somebody to be a shorty for somebody. No, don't worry, take it on me. He will pay, she will pay. And then they don't pay. And you find yourself on the wrong side of the law because you became a shorty, you took an oath, you probably dropped a title deed or something, and you're in trouble. And you ask, how did I get there? An unwanted pregnancy, teenage pregnancy, drug pushing, sometimes bad habits and addictions. We all know that anybody who has an addiction, especially a habit addiction, you wonder, how did they get there? But if you ask, they started somewhere. We all started somewhere. Anywhere you get to where you are not happy, you started somewhere. Or you permitted something to start and to drift you to where you are. Sometimes it's even like political suicidal tendencies. How did we get there? Political prostitution. How did you get there? Most times we have to look at a couple of things. One is our decision-making processes, because I am assuming that we get to Jubilee because we will get there. Whether we do anything or not, we will get there. As surely as today is a Tuesday, as tomorrow will be Wednesday, as yesterday was Monday, if I do anything and I do nothing, tomorrow will be Wednesday. And so the days do not come because I get actively and proactively involved in things. They come by the cycle of time and season that God Almighty set. And so it behoves me to be smart, to be determined, and to key in to the times and the cycles and the seasons, because they don't wait for me. And so I assume that we get to Jubilee, we are celebrating, we get to this birthday, we get to a 25th wedding anniversary, we get to some things like, what about the decision-making processes that led us there? Is there anything to tweak a little bit, to embellish, to look at, to polish? What about our friends and our associations? because what we become, by and large, you can tell